Hola, buenos días. Soy Nico.
Daddy.
And today we're here to close out another wonderful week's worth of content. But today we're going to be talking about some of the most traumatic stuff I've ever covered. Nico, before we get started, I'd like to say thank you to everybody who came out and supported Throwback Thursday. I really appreciate it, especially because my supporters that came out, they ended up buying me round after round. So at the end of the event, I was kind of sloshed. But I really appreciate it, and we have more events coming in the future. If that sounds interesting to you, definitely check out my Instagram. And if you like this kind of content, make sure to follow me on patreon.com/Nicosaesthetics for more exclusive videos, weekly live streams with a multifaceted panel, and to be a part of a good, open-minded community. If that sounds interesting to you, then click the subscribe button. I'm sorry, I kind of switched it up towards the end and I lost my train of thought. Point is, if that sounds interesting to you, check it out. Let's get on to the actual story. Today, we're going to be talking about a performer named Cuirasfolk. You know, the reference to the old TV show, I'm assuming. So, I don't know his first name, so we're just going to call him Cure. So, Cure made a post that went viral on social media where basically he said that for the next 2 months, he's going to be in a medieval European fortress that's owned by one of his followers, and he's going to be his submissive BDSM slave during the process. And as a GIMP, he will not have access to technology, electronics, or social media, so he will be incommunicado until around July. And this went viral. Basically, BDSM is a category of sexual exploration that I'm not fully knowledgeable on. I do watch some videos by Kat Black. She talks about BDSM culture quite often, and I've dabbled in it before with one of my exes, but it mostly was just blindfolds and slight ties. Nothing too extreme. So I can't give you the rundown on this type of dynamic, but there is more to his scenario in particular that I wanted to talk about, which is slave play. Nico, so y'all know I have quite the disdain for race play because at the end of the day, my personal belief is you say that this is just a fantasy, you say that you're just exploring your sexuality, but these harmful stereotypes, these harmful words that you're using in the bedroom, in my opinion, don't stop as soon as you get your, confetti pop. It doesn't make sense that you get the rush, the thrill, and the enjoyment off of degrading somebody based on their race, but that's not how you personally feel outside of the sexual encounter. That's my personal opinion, and a lot of people seem to think that since I am also a performer, I cannot have an opinion on which sexual acts are taboo for me or which sexual acts that I'm not personally into or I don't agree with morally. But just because I do a job does not mean my entire being and personality revolves around that job. For example, I'm not into race play. I'm not into degrading people based on their nationality, their race, their ethnicity. So I don't participate in it. Even as a performer, none of my content involves degrading people based on their race, nationality, etc. I don't even do that on YouTube when I'm having social commentary about people that are, let's say, ignorant. I don't even go at them based on their identity as a person. I go at them based on their actions and or the words that they're putting online where they're basically putting out their voice and their message. I simply dissect that and have a conversation on it. Now that we got that out the way, let's move on to why this is terrible, because this is like race play times 10. Nico, if you did not know, this is the same performer that went viral for visible lashings. He was into slave play, and his white sexual counterpart whipped him, and not the playful leather tap, 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 we're slightly getting into the sensations. No, he was whipping him like an actual slave to the point that he had scars, wounds, red juice coming out. I can't say certain things on YouTube where I get demonetized. Hell, I'm always on ad sustainability. He was bleeding down his back. So he was getting beat on by this man, and he was like, yes, my daddy beat me so good. And I'm all for sexual exploration. I tell you guys this all the time. The only thing that I actively preach on my channel is make sure that you're getting tested regularly, like I do. Oop, because I'm about to start filming again. And make sure that you're screening your partners so that they've also been tested recently. Outside of that, as long as nobody is being harmed, I usually say go for it. In this particular situation, the entire point of the sexual release is to be harmed. And it's not even like the normal BDSM situation where, okay, there's light harm and then there's consoling, there's the aftercare. In this situation, he had wounds that took months to properly heal, and that was the enjoyment of the process. And once again, I'm conflicted on this because morally it goes against everything I stand for because it's outright wrong and steeped in racism. But as two consenting adults, I can't necessarily tell people what to do with their body. That's why when we have these conversations, I'm always like, I personally don't agree with it, and we can have a dialogue about why all of this is wrong. But at the end of the day, I can't tell two consenting adults they can't do something that isn't affecting people outside of them. So I definitely want to hear your opinions down below. How do you feel about the whole slave play and race play scenario where it's two parties indulging in violent race-based sexual explorations, and they aren't necessarily harming others, but they're doing bodily harm to one another? What is your opinion on that, especially with this scenario where he's essentially like, oh, I'm about to go off the grid in a medieval European castle? And I mean, I'm assuming it's going to be the same treatment, but and once again, it's a grown adult, so I'm just like, I'm trying not to be judgmental outside of just not tolerating like the racism aspect, but it's harmful to his body, even if it's not, let's say, sexually harmful. This man is walking around with open wounds, but I'll leave the conversation in your hands, and I'll see you guys next time. Boop. And now for a brief yet sincere shout out to this week's Third Eye Tier subscribers and some of my Day 1 subscribers, Anthony H. and Ernest H. Your continued support is greatly appreciated, and thank you everyone who supports the channel. And this week's live stream discussion will be over the taboo of race play and slave play and how that affects you as a black and or brown person of color. If that sounds interesting to you, definitely tune in.